That's fine. I got sponsors.
Make
All
it
right, hello. We're all here. We made it. Quickly, sponsor shout out. VetDNA.com for all of your testing needs. Use code SHITHAPPENS for $5 off the crypto panel. VetDNA.com. Depending on who your neighbor is at a show, you might need it right away. Right away. And then all of our lovely sponsors, we won't go too long, but Stoneage Ball Python, Pacific Northwest Local, BNS Reptilia. He's doing way too many Pituophis. He's desperate. He told me the spaghetti is everywhere and he needs help. So message him and just pre-order before we have to take pictures. Powerhouse Pythons doing ball pythons and cocoa and some Stimsons and leopard geckos now up in the Pacific Northwest. Small Town Exotics. Shane will be on the auction this weekend. He needs to sell some big, juicy breeder ball pythons. So if you need a juicy breeder ball python, come to the auction. And he'll be at Tinley next week. God, what week is it? Oh, almost 10 days or something?
Yeah.
Yeah. Great Family Snakes. They're in like the DG VPI Pied combo project. And they also work with Sansania. And they're from Alabama, which is cool because they have the best corn snakes around. Let's just be honest. Check them out on Instagram and Morph Market. And finally, Bravo Zulu. She's into puzzle stuff, all kinds of fun stuff. She has her own website, so you don't even need to go to Morph Market. Skip that. It's boring. Morph Market's boring. Straight to Bravo Zulu reptiles.com. As always, the worst ad reads on the internet. I'm never getting any better. But let's go around and like introduce ourselves because maybe somebody doesn't know you. 30-second elevator pitch. John, you start.
John, Fealy's Clutch, El Paso, Texas. Focused mostly on ball pythons right now. I have probably about 10 different species, but ball pythons is all I'm breeding right now. So, yeah.
Jen?
That's enough.
Yeah, Jen, Heretic Reptiles, kind of new kid on the block. I've owned reptiles pretty much my whole life, but just really started getting serious about snakes in particular, and got ball pythons, corn snakes, king snakes, sand boas. Am I forgetting anybody? Oh, I just got a new rat snake. So I think I'm kind of finding my path is colubrids. I kind of like a little bit of everything, but colubrids really kind of my passion. Love how curious they are and how fun they are to interact with. So that's me. I haven't produced a clutch yet, so I'm kind of a fraud at this point, but definitely getting ready to go and moving in that direction and growing up animals. And so, yeah, that's me.
Mm-hmm. Marissa?
All right. I'm Marissa, Hippo Herps. Last year, just got back into the hobby after about a 6-7 year hiatus. So the landscape has changed quite a bit in that time. So this year produced some ball pythons and corn snakes. Next season, I got set up with some awesome leopard geckos via these holdback rack auctions. So I should be having geckos shooting out pretty soon too. But yes, very much a little bit of everything. Colubrids are awesome. I have some bull snakes coming from Chris at BNS, hopefully in a few weeks. So I'll be getting my bull snake on soon again.
Steve?
Great. All right. Steve from Steve's Morphs. Out of Brooksville, Florida, small breeder. Consider myself a small breeder. Do all the major shows and a lot of shows around Florida. Some Atlanta shows also. Strictly ball pythons. That's all we do is ball pythons. We have a small colony of redfoot tortoises, but that's the only other species we really dabble with. We have some pets that are, some blue tongues that we have, leopard geckos, stuff like that, fat tail geckos, but that's pretty much it. It's strictly pretty much just the ball pythons is all I do.
All right, sweet. We did it. We did the introductions. All right. The first thing that troubles me is I got there at 11 on Saturday and it looked like a Sunday at 3:45. So do we want to talk about just the door number guesses? I know they don't release door numbers for the show.
I noticed that the VIP that is usually packed, that looks like a normal show, like say a Repticon that I go to, that's what the VIPs usually look like on Friday.
Mhm.
and I saw maybe 3 badges that said VIP.
The
And
whole
they weren't
time?
really, yeah, that was on Friday for setup.
Wow.
Saturday was pretty light. Sunday was about the same. I'd say it was about the same attendance. And I wouldn't say the attendance was really horrible. It's just not what we've seen in the past few years.
Right.
But it's 2 weeks before Tinley too. And a lot of people travel to that show. So I can't see people doing, with the economy the way it is right now and all the expense, I can't see people traveling to both of those shows within 2 weeks of each other. And if I had to pick one to go to myself, it would definitely be Tinley. Hands down.
Are you vending Tinley also?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, John, you were back in the corner.
I was back in the
How did you feel about the number of people who made it back to the corner?
Well, like a kid in the corner.
Just let it out. This
I
isn't your
felt
show,
like I was
so
in
whatever
trouble the
feelings you
whole
have,
time.
you can.
I would have traded places with them.
From the attendance, like I got out of the booth a few times just to kind of see, because I was kind of baffled. So like even in that corner, I've always been in that corner in Arlington. I usually get a decent amount of people walking past the booth. I think the entire weekend I had like maybe 25 to 30 people legitimately stop and like look at the booth, talk, strike up conversation, something like that. So it was very much down from what I'm used to.
Well,
Mm.
you saw where I was, and you saw what was
Oh.
right across the street from me. So,
Do you
big
wanna get
breeder.
into
We're
that?
not going to mention any names, but they had a 50% off sale. So every time somebody turned that corner, that's all they saw. And there was a lot of people purchasing lower end snakes, and they really didn't know too much about them anyway. So if you see 50% off, you're going to jump to that table before you go to another one. And I'm not saying the snakes were all healthy. Everything was good on his table. It's just that 50% off really kind of put a damper on anybody even looking at my stuff.
Do you think if he had like put the signs up on Sunday, that would have been more fair? Or
I'll be somewhat honest. I don't think the last 2 shows they did there, they did very well.
last
Where
2
I did, and I
Okay.
was right across from him for 2 or 3 shows, and I did very well. So, but also there was a different clientele there also. I mean, because I usually talk to breeders that are working on projects and stuff, and there was not a whole lot of that out there, and not a lot of familiar faces either walking the crowd, So when you don't have that group of people coming that are spending the money, yeah, it's going to be a little difficult. When you have a lot more, Repticon kind of pet people, first time owners and stuff, they're not coming to my table. They they'll look at some stuff, but they'll look at some prices and be like, I gotta go. Not what I'm looking for. Those are more like, banana looking people kind of thing. They were looking for banana combos or banana pies, or you're not going to find that on my table. I don't do any of that stuff. I'm kind of a breeder for other breeders. I kind of think, try to think so as. So I don't produce a whole lot of pet stuff. If I do, it's going to be my byproduct.
Mhm.
And don't get me wrong, I do all the local Repticons by me, and I do really well. But we get a mixed crowd of people. We get people that are, already breeding, people that want to get into breeding, and then you have the first time pet people. And the first time pet people that probably went to the other table and bought snakes, they went home and they probably went down the rabbit hole of going online and seeing everything. And now the next time they come to a show, they may look differently at different things.
Mhm.
They'll see a bigger picture. They didn't just see, 50% off and lower end snakes. They'll see more that they can do. And it might, spark them to do more.
Right. So anybody can chime in. Why do you think
Mhm.
the budding breeder crowd was not there in mass at all, really, this time? Or is it just because like they couldn't sell their banana combos at their show, and so they just don't have the money to come in and buy $1,000 snake or $2,000 snake? Or is it more than that?
I seem to think that some of the smaller breeders that go around and sell their snakes at the show, they usually come to the bigger breeders and spend money with them once they've sold so many snakes. There was nobody really even selling a whole lot of low end stuff. So that kind of hurts everybody. When the lowest people in the show, not the lowest, but the lower end people that sell like more of that stuff, lower end stuff, when they're not selling, we're not selling. There's nobody really coming in and just spending $10,000, and the $100 and $200 snakes are sitting on the table. When the $10,000 snake is selling, everything is selling.
Right. I guess I begs the question, like, how much money was in the room, which is always like a good question. Like,
the money was there. I'm not gonna say the money wasn't there. It was like, so with the vendors, kind of to piggyback off of what Steve was saying, like, you see it. I know myself personally, I took that step this time. This is my first time to say, okay, I have investment quality or like investment level animals on my table, and to have no one even look at those, like, that was a slap in the face, which is fine. I understand. We're not all going to have, like, every show's going to have its ups and downs, right? But I finally got out of that pet level. But I know me, myself, as that smaller breeder trying to step up every single show, and I'm notorious for it, right? Like, I don't bring money home. I'm one of those foolish people that is continuously reinvesting. Everyone got hurt on this show because the money was in the vendors' pockets, but the vendors weren't moving their animals. So they weren't comfortable buying from other vendors, which happens a lot at the big shows. Like, you'll see, it's almost a tick for tack. If you're doing good, then your neighbor's doing good. Or Steve, all the way in Florida, that I only see twice a year, is going to do good because I'm going to go see Steve because I know he has a couple of things that I want to add. And I don't want to pay the shipping for Florida to Texas. I'm just not going to do it. So I'm going to wait till Steve's in front of me, right?
Yeah, I guess if 100,000 comes to the door, like, it moves around the room 10 times, and it's actually like $500,000 after a while.
Right.
But also, like, from the buyer side, like, when you see a big crowd and business happening and there's a lot of back and forth and engaging conversation, you're kind of drawn to that, and it seems to spread around those tables in the immediate area. Versus as a buyer, I'm primarily going to these shows as a buyer at this point, and I'm walking by and it's just dead, or people are sitting behind their booths and not engaging, or even if I'm standing there and seriously looking at an animal and they can't bother to look up from their phone for 2 seconds, like, I'm moving right along because there's nothing that special that I want to give my business to that person. Like, I care more about the person who I'm doing business with and building a relationship with, because let's be honest, in this world, like, how often are we truly doing a deal, getting 1 or 2 snakes, maybe a group, and then never ever talking to or engaging with that person again? It's just as much networking as it is acquiring those animals for your collection. So, like, if you don't have the time to have a conversation with me or even say hi and ask me how I'm enjoying the show, like, I'm scooting along. So, like, there's a reason why certain people, like, attract that crowd and that energy, and the money seems to circulate within that little sphere of influence. Well,
I try to talk to everybody who walks by. Everybody who walks by, I say hello to. And honestly, when Jessica walked up and we started talking, I was like, wow, this is the greatest conversation I've had here this weekend. I actually talked to some of the people that were at the gaming convention next door, and they were developers for Call of Duty. And I was like, they were asking me about snakes, and I was asking them about Call of Duty. So it was kind of cool. I mean, they knew nothing about what I was doing, and I'm not a gamer or anything. My son is. So I was asking questions for him. But it was more or less, I mean, not a lot of people engaging. But I know exactly what you're talking about when you walk up to a table and somebody's talking on their phone. I've been to tables where I was ready to purchase a snake and sat there for 5 or 10 minutes, and they didn't even look up once. And I decided I didn't want to do business with those people.
No, your money is going to walk right on over to a different table.
Yep.
And you're going to support that other person.
The people that were selling stuff, I see, were the people that were out there hustling hard. Not that, some people didn't do well and were hustling hard, clearly, but I wasn't even going to buy. I wasn't even going to buy and ended up buying from a breeder just because we had a good conversation. I started looking more at what was on his table, looked at it, and I was like, what the heck is this? And we started talking. He's like, come on out to my facility. You know, we had a great conversation, bought a snake. Wasn't even planning to do it. So it's like, actually that same breeder was like, those days are over where you can just sit back and be on your phone and, you know, not
Snake
be
sells itself.
engaged. Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
That's not gonna work.
As
I
a-
personally
You have
don't
to sell yourself. Honestly,
Yeah.
as a breeder, you have to. The person has to have confidence in you to purchase from you. If they don't have that confidence, you don't have any kind of connection or whatever. Nobody just walks up and says, "I want to buy that snake. Here's my money." I mean, yeah, 1 in a million. Sometimes it happens, but for the majority, you're not really selling anybody a snake unless you're really talking to them and
Mhm.
engaging with them. But I look forward to the conversations when I go to the show. So if you ever see a post that says, stop on by and talk snakes, that's 100% what I'm there for. I want to have those conversations. I want to talk to people. I usually have my daughter and my wife there. They sell snakes. I want to have the conversations. I want to talk to people about stuff.
Yeah.
I want to talk about projects and different things. I'll pull stuff from behind my table just to show people different things, just cool projects that I'm working on that's not even for sale, you know, but that's more about me. I've got a strong passion for the animals and I really like creating different ones. But some of these people I know at one point, 3-4 years ago, when they saw everybody doing well, you know, COVID and all that stuff, and they all invested real heavy and they raised a bunch of stuff up. And now this is their first season and it's fallen flat. So nothing is really moving. So everything you invested, those are a lot of the people you're seeing dumping their collections now too.
Yep. And I said it
there's a lot of
Saturday night. I think it was with you. I was like, how much you want to bet we see like at least 4 or 5 people try to dump a collection after this weekend? I've already seen 2
many
people post it.
Oh yeah.
Oh wow.
I get about 3 a week. They're not huge collections or anything like that, but it's people that invested in the last 2 to 3 years and they're not seeing a return. And
we need more buyers and fewer breeders.
yeah, I mean, but we're flooded
that's where
too.
we're at. As I'm getting into breeding, right? Yeah.
I mean, I usually do, you know, just under 200 clutches a season, but I had injuries this year and all that kind of stuff that went on. So I had to take a break in between the middle of my season. I fell in March off a ladder and broke both my arms. And that was pretty dramatic. But a lot of my breedings got put on hold. Girls that were building and stuff, I didn't really breed for a month and a half to close to 2 months. So, I mean, some of them I was able to get my daughter to pair for me. But other than that, it didn't happen. So, but I already planned on doing a smaller season. I definitely said I wanted to be under 100. And I'm going to fall right about 92 or 93 clutches this year, which I'm content with. It's still a lot of snakes. I'm not flooding the market and I'm making a lot of stuff that I want. And I think that's what this season is about, because we're not going to be moving the animals we've been moving in the last few years. So if you're doing clutches right now, you're doing pairings, it better be something that you're working on for yourself. Don't just do it for shows. That's kind of, you know, blown out the window now because they're not moving at shows as they were, no matter what price you put it out. You know, and everybody's seen the price drops on everything. I mean, Desert Ghost Clowns were $10,000, $11,000 last year. You can pick one up this year for $4,000 with some size to it. So, and honestly, it really doesn't matter what price you're going to put it at. The ones that are up there for $4,000 aren't moving either. So,
and there's more every day.
Yeah, and it's not, you know, the money. I think people are afraid to spend money. I think that's part of it. The economy is really starting to press on people now. I mean, the first bit of the year, everybody gets tax returns, everything's going good, and then gas goes up to $3-4 a gallon. Everybody's insurance and taxes doubles and triples. You know, it makes it hard, especially if you're a hobby breeder, to go out and spend more money if you're not selling your stuff.
Right, it's the like
Loan
catching the
repayment.
falling knife problem where you're not sure when
So a lot of people are afraid
invest.
to invest right now.
Right,
But
you're like
anybody who's been in this business for at least 10 years, you're seeing it like this. It's a wave. It goes up, it goes down, it goes up, it goes down. We've seen it, you know, in the last few years, we've seen it at its best, better than it's ever been. We're going into a bad spot, but it happens. And most people who stick it out do really well. If you run for the hills, you'll never make your investment back. You will never know. but I've always seen it bounce back, and I've always seen it bounce back better than it was. If we're ever going to see like a COVID again, I don't know. Yeah, Jeremy bought. Anybody want to buy my collection?
See.
Oh, man. So
Jeremy.
what class of animals? So you think it was under 1,000, or do you think it was under 500?
I would say 250. 250 and under was probably a good price point. I mean, don't get me wrong. I sold snakes that were more than that off my table,
right?
But
like,
it was very few of them.
Market? Right.
And it was return customers that mostly bought stuff from me. So without return customers, I would have probably been dead in the water.
John,
But
did you sell
I would
any
say
snakes?
that's fair. I sold 0 snakes. I sold a couple of $100 in t-shirts though. That was nice.
That's good.
Oh,
That's
good.
good.
Well, hey,
so
you don't have to
had-
feed t-shirts.
Right.
So-
Nobody wanted my t-shirts.
I didn't see any of these T-shirts. I would have bought.
Right.
I had new t-shirts printed for that show. I think I brought them all back.
I had
What I didn't give away.
6 or 7 people stare at. I had super black pastel, had albino females on the table for $500. Everyone that stopped at my table stopped and looked at those, and we would talk. And to be honest, I probably could have sold all of them, but my thing was I talked to them about what they wanted to do. They're like, well, I have a black pastel this, black pastel that I want to put it to. I was like, okay, so here's the deal. Super black pastels are like 70-30. There's a 30% chance that thing's going to come up just horribly deformed.
Mhm.
Nothing you can do about it, right? I got this. I did it on accident. That wasn't my pairing that I meant to do. I was just trying to get the girl growing. And one lock was all it took, unfortunately. Made beautiful animals, no kinks, no duck bill, no nothing. But everyone that said it, I was like, I'm not going to let you have these animals because you're telling me you want to put it straight back to black pastel, and I'm just not going to do that. So I did shoot myself in the foot. I probably could have moved a couple.
You did, but you educated them at the same time.
Mhm.
Exactly.
They did
And I
learn
would
something.
I would rather save them from having that experience because I had a horribly kinked one, my very first clutch ever, that I had to cull, and I felt horrible about. So I don't want to set anyone else up on that journey ever.
Makes sense. But
Sorry
that's
about
part
your
of it,
sales at the show.
Okay, I don't care.
There was quite a few
do
people I
care.
heard that
Don't
didn't
get me
sell
wrong, I
anything.
care, but
And some of them were bigger names that didn't sell anything either.
Yeah.
Like really big names that I was kind of shocked on.
There
But
were
I heard some people that did really
vendors.
well.
Do you know why there were people? I guess they sublet their tables, but were they like crystal balling that it was going to be a bad show? We're like, oh, I'll quickly sublet my table for this time.
I think a lot of people went into that show thinking it wasn't going to be great.
But they're like betting it all on Tenley. Like,
I don't know. Chad Holker had a great show from Holker Herps. Tony from Hardwire had a really good show. They're right next to each other.
mhm.
Jason
right behind
Kittinger was
them.
right next to him, and I don't think Saturday wasn't very good for him. I don't know how Sunday went. I didn't talk to him after that. Dale Richards from Constricted Reptiles, he came and vended with me. He's from Florida too, so I gave him a table, and he did better than I did. So, but I was really happy that he did good. Trying to think of who else. The whole JSA, JD Constrictors, Best Dressed Balls. They didn't do real great at that show either. A lot of people that usually do well kind of fell flat. So I have to think it was just definitely across the board, definitely looking for lower end stuff, not the high end.
All right, ladies, what did you want to buy there that you couldn't buy or wasn't available?
Well,
It could be any species or whatever, too, hypothetically, or morph of ball python. But like, was there
I'm
something missing
supposed
from
to
the
be
show?
putting all my money towards my ARS rack acquisition, and then I keep having bull snakes that I want come available, or things I've been waiting on, or the Japanese rat snakes, which I'm in love with. And so I'm like, okay, come on, guys, I'm trying to get my infrastructure going here.
I'm never going to
So
get those racks. I keep buying too many
I
snakes, and
keep
I'm like,
buying too
this
many
is not a
snakes.
sustainable problem.
No.
It is not. But the two ball pythons, I didn't go in there looking. So I'm part of Bob and Josh's Discord where I get credit built up, right? So I was like, okay, if I'm there and I'm gonna browse, I've got a decent amount of credit. I don't want to have too much extra on top of that I wanted to use. So I happened to see a female for each of them to use up my credit with minimal extra cash on top of it that were good base animals for my collection. And my animal from Josh added acid. Yes, it's on female side, but I'm still building up my collection again, from a hiatus. And most of the other acid things, especially if I wanted to go straight into the acid clown stuff, that's a little bit out of my price range right now when I'm trying to, get my racks up, get my rodent colonies going. So being able to get my foot in the door with a new gene, add another hypo multi-gene girl for my hypo army from Bob. They weren't essentials. I wasn't looking for them. They just happened to be there and I had credit to spend. But historically for me, even before my hiatus, when I was in the hobby under a different business name, I almost never went to big shows with the intent of buying expensive animals there, because I do like to do a lot of selectively, line breeding for certain traits. I'm looking for certain things in these examples, not just the genetics themselves. So in order to do that, I'm most likely not going to find it at a show. I'm kind of combing through, back in the day, it was like King Snake and Fauna, and Morph Market was in its infancy, looking for exactly what I'm wanting. So now if I happen to see that and I'm at a show, it is coming home with me. I'm not walking away from it, because my luck, I'm going to walk away and someone else is going to buy it. So, so for me, at this time, I wasn't looking to invest more in ball pythons. I just so happened to see things that worked for what I was wanting. But I think I noticed the same, and talking to people walking around the show, it was a lot of, I'm just here to look, or I want to get supplies while I'm here, save on shipping. If I happen to see something great. Whereas previous years, people walk in, they're like, okay, I've got $2,000 burning a hole in my pocket. I am looking for, a male double recessive with a codom or something. They go in with a goal and they're going to find it. And I don't feel like that was the vibe I was getting from the room.
Not at all.
This time around. Not at all.
Yeah, I think same. I'm trying to be as selective as I can about what I bring in. I have a husband who thinks I'm already insane and says like,
Know the vibe.
are we coping with
We're
grief,
all
or is there
insane,
some
it's
kind of
fine.
problem that you need to speak with a therapist? I'm like, no, I do have a plan for these animals. And I think like I picked up a snake from Jessica, who is an asshole. But he's beautiful and I love him so much already. He's in shed. So I went, and that's kind of where I'm at. Like, I know what I want and I know who I want to get it from, and I can pick it up at the show. Like last September, NARBC, Arlington, I think I got 5 or 6 snakes. I bought some while I was there. Pretty much everything besides one snake I bought just browsing. And this year, I'm like, I got to be much more careful. I need to. I'm still doing a lousy job at it. I see, ooh, pink. Oh, I'm still doing that a little bit, but I pretty much knew what I wanted. I bought one snake that was like impulse purchase. And other than that, I'm like, I know what I want and I know who I want to get it from. Yeah, it's great. If I don't buy it today, it might be gone, like Marissa said, or I'll have to pay $65, $75 to have it shipped. But I almost would rather have something shipped and get exactly what I want from who I want. I just am so nervous about buying from shows too. Like my husband bought his first snake since he was a kid, and it was a milk snake. And I said, if you bring something into my house and it kills and it brings something in and it kills any of my snakes, I was like, I'm like, we have to be very careful what we bring into this collection. And it's not just one snake anymore. It's 20 something snakes, which isn't a lot, I understand. But, I'm like, these are my babies. This is like my plans, my, my hobby. so I don't want anything to happen to them. So I'm very particular about that as well. And I'm just so scared to bring something in. Everything looked good. Like when I will say that when I was walking around, I didn't see a lot of stuff that I was like, ugh, as much as I've seen maybe in the past. So
There was a table Jessica and I walked by. We were like, "Ooh, something smells a little funky," and Jessica was like, "Ooh, smells like crypto."
Oh, jeez.
it's like,
I can't help it. So here's something I'm hearing is like pre-sales become important in this market, and then the Bob Patreon like piggy bank, which is effectively a pre-sale of a snake that you don't even know what it is yet. So John and Steve, would you be interested in like implementing more? Like the show doesn't matter because you've already pre-sold enough to pay for the show, so you're just going there to.
I did that this time.
Okay.
My pre-sale actually covered my trip. I didn't really have to worry about it.
Yay!
So
And
that
you
was
know what?
perfect.
That networking aspect is huge. Like the number of times, like when I first got back into it. So my wife was total snake phobia. Last year was like, okay, I guess I'll let you get 1 or 2 snakes. And then that very quickly snowballed into, every single available space being filled. And now they're worse than I am almost. But in that first time, I was like, hey, this is like your second reptile show. They were cool with ball pythons and corn snakes. And then they really started to enjoy how colubrids are a little more active and intelligent most of the time. And so we found this gentleman, it was David at Eclectic Reptiles at the Corpus Herp show. And he took maybe 45 minutes to take his time talking to my wife about like, oh, look here, let's look at the body language and the behavior of these boas and how they differ from the species that they're currently used to. And it was a very small show, but he took that time to educate and help someone get over their fear. And, he got 2 sales out of us the next two times we saw him at shows because he put that time and money. And, I could tell looking at it, I was like, wow, he's got some really nice stuff. He's bringing his byproduct to these smaller shows, but his byproduct is still nicer than the majority of the boas I'm seeing at these smaller local shows. So, he put that 45 minutes in, but he's now got repeat customers from us. We send business his way. It's so much more than just like, yes, you want to cover your costs, and I'm at a hobby level and it's not my income. So I have a different perspective, but that 20 minutes you take to talk to someone new in the hobby, or John, how you were saying, educating people about, hey, super black pastels, you might have a really hard time. It can be emotionally draining when you have to cull a brand new baby. And it was an oops, it was just that one lock. So that education goes a long way, and you become someone they can trust and they can turn to, whether it's an animal they get from you or an animal they get from someone else. You become that advisor. So I think spending that time and building that relationship is huge.
It's real important. You have to spend time and talk to those people. So if you don't, then it affects the next few times you went to the show. You bought snakes from them the next couple of times. I have plenty of customers like that I've spent time with, that I wound up mentoring them a year later.
Yes.
And so like Jen Cates one I'm mentoring right now, and a couple other people too. But did anybody notice that it was not a lot of ball python like walking around with them in their hands? It was mostly colubrids, hognose, geckos, cresties, and all kinds of stuff. I didn't see a whole lot of ball pythons. It was a lot of small deli cups with little snakes and little lizards in them also, which is kind of different. You usually see a lot of people holding ball python.
Do we want to comment on whether or not we think lizards did well? Every crested gecko person I saw
that's what I heard.
Looked straight up asleep.
Well, I guess all the lizard people really did well. That was what everybody was saying. Even Brian Potter was saying the same thing.
Lizard, not crested gecko.
That's what I was wondering.
Lizards in general, they just did better.
I don't know, man. They all look.
Lizards and colubrids. Ball python breeders did not win this show. Not for lack of good-looking animals, just lack of people looking for those animals.
There was nice stuff at the show for sure.
There was a lot of nice stuff.
I wish I had a couple thousand to drop. Yeah.
One of the things I'd kind of like to ask, like for Marissa and Jen, Like when you're walking up, since you're just getting back into it, like me and Steve kind of know who we're gonna go to regardless. We'll look at everyone's
Mhm.
stuff. I'm sure Steve's the same way, but we know who we're gonna go to, right?
Mhm.
So the aesthetic appeal of a booth doesn't
Mhm.
necessarily draw what happens with that sale for us. So for you guys, when you're
Mhm.
looking, or gals, sorry, however you want to do it.
Oh,
I
no.
hope I don't. Yeah.
No
That's
worries
just the way
here. No
I
worries.
talk. I apologize.
Just don't call me late for dinner. That's all.
Yeah.
You can call me anything you want.
When you're
just not
looking
late
at
for
a
dinner.
booth, is there like a specific thing? Because that's one of the things I always try to do. I try to change my booth every show a little
Mhm.
bit and make it more visually appealing to myself. But I wonder
Mhm.
what it does to the customer base as well.
Jen, do you want to go first since you're newer to the hobby and I'm just getting back
Yeah,
into it?
Yeah, so I think I have kind of a unique perspective on it. I think when I was first getting started, like the flashier, the nicer, the more expensive, clearly setups drew me in. Because I was like, well, they're probably more well established. They're probably, which we all know doesn't necessarily mean that.
Mhm.
But when that's how it works for other areas of the economy, right? It's like you want the one that looks reputable. So it used to. Now I don't even notice them really. I notice
Mhm.
the person, behind the booth. I'm like, oh, that's so and so. That's Brian Carter there. I'm gonna
Mhm.
pop over and
Mhm.
say hello. So it's starting to change. So I think for the pet, if you bring the pet quality and you're trying to just churn and burn a bunch of those animals or the byproduct, I think have your game up. Have it look professional, bright, colorful, unique. If you're trying to sell that high quality, I don't see how much value that adds, to it, because those of us that are looking for quality and looking for projects, I don't really particularly care. You could have no sign, you could have a
Mhm.
little index card with their name on it, and that would
Right.
be good
It's
for me.
it's more like your reputation online preceding the
It
sale
does.
is actually more
Mhm.
important. Like Craig Trumbauer has nothing. He's got some
Right.
jellies on his desk. Bless his heart.
Uh-huh.
But it's
I know it's
respect.
great.
Yep.
It's
Yeah.
all the respect, right?
Yep.
So
Mhm.
that's why
No, I
like
think
social media is so important, even though nobody thinks it is.
yeah.
Because that's your like
We all hate it,
your
but it's
I don't know. I don't have any friends.
you gotta.
I can't get followers for crap. So
I think I follow you, Steve. Maybe if I don't, I will.
I've been staggering at like 3,900 for like, I don't know, 2 years now. It's like I've done so many big shows and met so many people. Nobody likes any of my stuff. I don't post enough stuff. Is probably why. I post like I'll post a picture like once every 3 weeks, or if I'm at a show, and that's about it. Or if I make something cool.
Mhm.
But I'm not in your face all the time. Check this out. Look what I'm having for dinner. Oh, I went here. I'm with this guy. I can't do all that.
Mhm.
I'm too old for that crap.
you should just like bulk take pictures of 30 of your snakes and then just upload
Have
at
them
least
ready to go. Yep.
one a day.
If I
Or
showed you my
you
phone,
can
there's
use a
more than
scheduler too.
I have probably 50 a week or in a couple of days that I take. I constantly take pictures. I just don't post them. I mean,
Well,
Yeah.
that's
I was like,
Using
oh, I'll post it when it's
schedulers
dead.
is great
Then I
because
forget.
then you can pre-schedule. Okay, I want 2 posts to go out a day. I've already filled out captions. You've got your hashtags ready to
No,
go.
and then the algorithm
You
likes
see,
you.
I need
Yes.
someone like you to do all that.
It matters.
Because I have no idea.
You're supposed to schedule and you're supposed to do it at the same time every day. So you're
Oh,
supposed to do
Jesus.
it about the same time. And it's like you do one story and
Mhm.
one reel a day,
Oh,
at
God.
least at the same time every day. Then the algorithm will love you. Apparently, it doesn't love me. I can't get followers or anything, but that's fine.
But John, I wanted
have no
to.
idea.
Oh, sorry, Steve.
No,
John,
you're
I
good.
wanted to answer your question too, as far as like
Yeah.
setting up the booth and whether it's aesthetically or with animals. When I'm cruising through a show, the first thing I do is go, okay, does this set off my ick alarm or not? Because we all know the things to look for if something gives you the heebie-jeebies.
Yeah,
And
netted
then
tables,
your
which they've talked
netted
in the chat.
tables, the poop encrusted and acrylic displays. And I'm just like, this is disgusting. I just skip right on past. But as far as the things that attract me to tables or make me more interested in certain setups or vendors, other than the engagement from the person, I think having good lighting is important. A good clean background in the displays or the cups. I know it's pretty trendy to have something with your logo, for branding's sake, but I feel like it can be distracting and take away from, when you're browsing and wanting to look at the animal itself, especially if there's a lot of bright colors in the logo.
That's a good point. Like even the displays with the color on them.
Yes, it can be
also
distracting, and it can change and alter the look of the animal. Which to me, I'm like, really, I'm here to look at the animal. And there's one display we walked by that looked like it had like actinic reef type lighting on their animals.
Oh my God, I'll just say it. It was hardwires.
Okay.
It was really cool to have like
it
the
was
big
very,
like studio thing, but the light coming down was blue.
It was making these animals look neon and orange.
Made the animals look very, very not true to life, right? So I like when I get like nice, clean daylight light.
We love you, Tony. Please don't kill us.
Background.
I'm just saying.
We had a great show too.
Light.
Yeah. No. It's just like for me, if I'm wanting to buy, as especially $500+ animal, accurate representation is important. And I do like when the animals are grouped kind of like by project, so it's easier to browse, because I know visually it might be more interesting to mix up like your dark stuff with your light stuff so they can contrast against each other. But if you can, say, oh, if you're looking at this girl, this would be a really great male to pair with it, and it's already kind of in the same area on the display. Or when I'm browsing and I go, oh, okay, that's someone's like Candy and Candino stuff. I don't have that. I'm just going to skip that set of displays. Oh, there's lots of dark stuff, like sign me up, like lots of blackhead and leopard, yellow belly, hypo nonsense. I'm going to go straight to that chunk of displays. If it's all mixed up, or I see, sure, you want to put the cheaper animals down closer to the aisle, more expensive in the top tiers, but when it's all muddled together, it makes it a little hard when browsing. So I think having it kind of pre-grouped by project, and then within that price category, price tier, makes it a little easier as a shopper too. Which, that's just me, but
I try to keep everything like paired together. Like if I have pieds, all my pieds are together. And then I may put clown pieds next to it. Next to that might be clowns. And then clown hypos and, desert ghost clowns. Well, but it all kind of morphs into what it is. Yes, so, I'm not going to have 3 pieds on this side of the table and 5 on that side. And it's too much. Because if somebody's looking for pieds, I want to say, well, just go right over there. All my pieds are right there.
Yeah.
Clown
so
pied,
you can go right
pied,
there
whatever.
And be like, oh, you're getting this clown pied, whatever male. Why don't you get this hypo het pied and work towards hypo clown pieds? You can build a little group all in that display instead of, once you do get into having 2+ tables, you don't want to have to shuffle a customer, up and down 15, 20 feet of real estate to
harder to find your own stuff too.
Yeah, in order to find your own stuff. So
I mean, every time I do displays, it's almost different every show. So I have to sit there and I have to be familiar with everything is. So when someone says, I'm looking for this, I can go find it for them. I don't have to go really searching. But being inside a display, it doesn't really, like you said, it doesn't give you the what you're looking for. You know what I mean? So when someone's looking at a snake, I'll actually take it out of the display and show it to them out, because 9 out of 10 times they go, "Oh my God, that looks way better." And I said, "You really can't see what it looks like."
Lid, even if you're just, because sometimes the glare from those
exactly
on the acrylic,
take it out, let them hold it, put it in their hand, let them turn it over, look at the belly. They can examine it however they want, but 9 out of 10 times they're going to say it looks way better out of the display than it does in.
Yeah.
A lot of times they're crammed in there. So put 3 or 4 of the same snake in the same box, and they're all kind of like this. It's like, oh, is that one snake? No, it's 3.
Yeah.
But they're all the same. Why put 3 of the same snake in there? Unless they're small, real small. But but grouping your table and being familiar with where everything is at is important.
Yeah,
I feel like that.
It might be common sense, but it's not common. You definitely see jumping all over the place. Oh, it's like hypo. What do you have hypo? Oh, there's a hypo over here, and I'm looking for this project. Oh, it's over there, and it's a great point. I wouldn't even thought of that.
Because once if you only have like 20 clutches a year, you have 3 animals from each clutch left or whatever.
And that could be why they're so jumbled all over the place, because
I don't even do everything clutches. That's jacked up, Jim. or Jess.
Sorry. I don't
But I do exactly what Marissa said though. Like I was like, okay, bright. If I have something bright, I'm gonna put something dark next to it. I'm gonna make the bright stand out. But then all the darks was what everyone looked at anyway. So it was just like, well, that kind of counterbalanced what I was trying to do.
Well, and John, it can be different depending on what show you're doing. You know, like at what, you know, is supposedly more breeder sale or someone who's already got their foot in the water in the hobby at NARBC might be different than if you're doing a local show to you where, you know, it's 99% pet people coming to get their first or second snake. You're going to set up your display differently for them. They might be more drawn to having the dark right next to the bright because they can see the variety available. You know, we know that for pet people, they enjoy the bananas and the bells and the pieds and the albinos, right? But, you know, Jessica let me have a little corner, some table space up in Shawnee, and I have a super cinnamon Mojave Posse GHI boy that, like, if it wasn't a boy, I'd keep him because he's so pretty. But, like, everyone was like, oh my God, look at him. He's like silver and he's got these little white lips and he's adorable. And so, you know, they would go straight from that to seeing some of these awesome banana het clown combos that Jessica had. And they were in love with both of them. And, you know, maybe they might not even know that the dark side exists in the ball python hobby when most of the pet stuff or what they see on social media from their friends are bells and pieds and albinos and banana things, you know? So I think for a pet driven show, the contrasting dark and bright together, I think might do better than at a breeder based show where, you know, someone's like, oh, I want stuff for my really light, bright, you know, fire OD yellow belly complex type stuff versus I'm going in hard with the really dark and contrasty and granity. So I think depending on the crowd, both have their merits.
But I think that's what we're hearing is like, that's the challenge. Like, how do you even know?
How do you know?
How do you know what you should be bringing? And then the other side
You
of
got to
that,
bring a little of everything.
there's not there's not one strategy. So you may set it up differently, which adds complexity to it, right? Like, I'm like,
or did
I'm
he change it up?
of...
Do it one way Saturday. That didn't work. Mix up your displays Sunday. The people who are going both days, they might see something different on the second day that they didn't even get eyeballs on the first day. True. I mean, it takes a little bit more time, but like you're already there. Around. You're hoping people will swing on by. So, you know, you're getting down to the wire. Yeah, move things around. Why not?
I moved display cases. Like I had my pieds all on one side in the corner where I think they got lost. And then I had like really nice Desert Ghost stuff right in the center. And I was like, you know what? Let me move the Desert Ghost stuff to the side and the pieds over there.
Yeah.
Honestly, it didn't really make a difference. I didn't sell anything anyway. But
you know what? At least
makes
you
you
tried,
feel good.
Steve.
It made me feel good that I moved the stuff around. But the weekend before, I was in Lakeland, Florida. I did the Lakeland, Florida, what is it? They call it the Repticon Fire Show. And we usually do really well there. This time was a little bit slower. But honestly, as soon as I got back, we peeled all the stickers off my displays, cleaned the displays inside and out, put new bedding inside them, and I relabeled them for the Arlington show with all high-end stuff and took all my low-end stuff. Now, if I would have kept all the stuff that I had in the display cases the week before, I might have had a different show. Completely different show. I might have been able to compete with Will Banks across from me. I didn't mean to say his name, but
like for the next, which we'll get to the new location, but do you want to do 50-50 high-end pet for future Dallases, or do you think you're going to come in hard with high-end only in April because you want it to be that way? What's the?
I think the reality is I'm going to have to tone it down some for this show. For Tinley and probably Daytona, I can probably do more of the high-end stuff. Daytona, I could probably even do 50-50 also, because you do get a mixed crowd. So, but I think Tinley is mostly higher-end stuff, and that's where I can usually move most of my high-end stuff is at that show. But
John,
we're also going to see what it's going to be like. This year might be different.
Right.
I'm bringing everything in the kitchen sink every time until it goes.
Well, I have 3 tables for Arlington,
hold on.
but 2 is usually too many.
Right.
When you have 3 tables in Arlington and it's a really big show and a lot of people are there, it's hard to talk to everybody. So that's why I keep the 3 tables, and I gave one to Dale to use for the last 2 shows. And I've been able to concentrate more on customers and talk to people than if I had 3 tables and running from, 24 feet back and forth. It's too much. And it's a lot of
Yeah.
snakes too. And
John, you just
even
need
if you have
to-
a great show, you don't bring that many. You don't sell
You
that many
just need to
snakes.
get a freeze dry thing so you can make freeze
Yeah.
dried candy.
Freeze dried
Since
candy.
I saw every kid there with freeze dried candy, and I'm like,
Right?
that's a
Oh my
question
Freeze-dried
though.
Skittles.
Does it
Yeah.
help? Does it
Mhm.
help or not?
Well-
Like, is it worth it? I've always been so curious about like reptile supplies. I feel like can help, but it's like to what extent? And then it's like, does that stuff work? Like the freeze dried candy and
The coffee
crap
and
from
their name
China
and all that stuff.
and stuff like that. Yeah. Oh, I bought the coffee stuff, so I wonder how they did.
Is it all the same coffee? Just different people's labels?
Yeah.
Okay. I
I
wasn't
mean,
sure
they
what
might
that
have
was all
different
about.
blends or whatever.
They
but
have
it's
it's a different roast and a different origin, I think, but yeah. Like
Pretty much.
light
All
roast.
All right, John, how much is a snake? Jeremy's asking.
$100 million.
With the pinky? Are you doing the pinky? Did I
The
miss?
Dr. Evil. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. No, but like going back to it, to be fair, I have to bring everything because I only have 3 displays, so I cover a table, right? And then I have a table and merchandise, and then what I'm trying to do is I'm gonna let my secrets out. Damn it. I'm trying to make it to where it's not just a one-stop shop. So I want to create essentially an end cap eventually. So like 2 tables for what I'm doing, right? Like merchandise and animals. And then 2 tables because we recently got set up with Ship Your Reptile as a sponsor. So I want to have Ship Your Reptile as part of the end cap with me. I want to have like RGI on the end cap with me. They were in my booth this last show, and a lot of people stopped at my table for them. But I essentially want to set it up to where it's okay. This is your one-stop shop. You can look at animals, you can talk, set up your shipping, you can set up your drop off your sheds or talk about the testing or figure stuff out. Maybe another vendor on the other side, and that's your entire end cap. So it's a one-stop shop for everything for whoever's at the show. And I think that's the smart way moving forward. I only do, this is my biggest year, and I only did 12 clutches. I don't see myself ever really going over probably 25 to 30 clutches ever, just because I want to keep it manageable for just me. I don't want to have to force anyone to come in. And with my disabilities from the military, I don't think I'd be able to manage much more than that myself. So it's what works both ways, but I'm trying to think of different ways to like, okay, how do we entice people to sit in this position? Because we've seen the groups, right? Like I've been out to Pomona, I've been to Tinley, I've been to Arlington, every show for the last 6 years. You're slowly starting to see like these, I would say, super groups form within friends, right? And they just make this large vending area, and it seems to do well for them because they can push off of each other. Well, my aspect on that was like, well, yeah, you could push animals the whole time, or hey, let me branch it into every aspect of the industry, have shipping, have the testing, have merchandise, have animals, and maybe have, like, my wife likes to do crafts, so maybe find something fun for kids like face painting or like to be honest, I was gonna do a crap ton of balloons and just hand a balloon to every kid this last show just to be a smart ass. And my wife looked at me and she was like, you know how many balloons will be stuck at the top of the convention center, and we'll be the only ones with balloons, and it'll come right back to you, so don't do it. I was like, but it'll be amazing. And she's like, yeah, but think of the environment. And I was like, that was a dirty
Think of
move.
the environment.
Just do animal balloons, and they're all snakes. You don't have to do any work, right? But
Yeah.
just don't put helium in them. So it's like,
Oh
they're
no,
all
I
snakes.
was doing helium tanks up, like out the wazoo, ready to go.
All right.
So you said you've been doing the show, going to the show for 6 years. So that was pre-COVID and everything. What was the show back like 6 years ago?
So he who shall not be named for safety's sake did the same thing that he did at this show back in, I want to say it was 17. 17 or 18. I've only seen those 50% off signs twice the entire time I've been at that show.
Okay.
And it was when I first got into the industry, which was a low point in the industry, and now.
The next low point in the industry.
The next low point in the industry, exactly.
Mhm.
I very much so believe that kind of dictates. He has set himself up for great success. I don't want to speak negatively on anything that he does.
No. I'm friends with him too. I don't have anything bad to say.
Exactly.
But he does a lot more pet stuff than breeder stuff. That's not a secret. We're bringing that many snakes and,
Mhm.
3,000 clutches a year or whatever he's doing, something ridiculous like that. I couldn't even imagine. But
Overhead.
I talked to some people.
Move it.
Yeah, that's hard to move. But the consensus I got from a lot of people there, that a lot of people were saying that prior to COVID, and that's when I kind of started vending, like right after COVID. We were still wearing masks and stuff when they brought the show back. So that was like, the next show was the first one I vended there. So I was in the midst of everything good. But a lot of people were saying that prior to COVID, it was on the verge of a pet show for the longest time.
Mm.
So COVID actually saved that show. And I talked to a buddy of mine this morning, Winston Smith, and he said that, it's always been kind of like that. And then when somebody said in like 2019 that they killed it at that show and they were selling high-end animals, he was like, I'm shocked, because that show has never been known for that. It's always been a slower show, especially compared to Tinley. Tinley's always been, the top show you can actually vend. And it's just, they said it was never like that. So are we going back to what it was prior to COVID? You know what I mean? Is it going back to what it was? Because that's the kind of crowd I saw there. I didn't see the crowd that I've seen in the last 3-4 years there.
Right.
So,
I think
All right.
another aspect of that is, and I don't want to give full credit to influencers, right? But the big industry influencers, right? Like
Snake Discovery packed that place
Snake
last year.
Discovery,
You couldn't walk.
even Antoine. Antoine brings a very large entourage wherever he goes, right? Like all the guys in the Texas area that come up and see Antoine is a big deal, and it brings a lot of purchases to the show. You didn't get that because none of them were there this time.
Nobody was there.
So would you
It's
take Snake
different.
Discovery
Yeah.
crowd back just to have
Okay.
bodies in the room?
Yeah, I
Like, Were
would.
they not there this time because they didn't want to come, or because they weren't re-invited to this one because people complained too much? Or
They were
was
on the list.
wondering.
They were supposed to be there.
oh,
I heard there was
happened.
some kind of drama or something.
It would be better to put them in the lobby.
Mhm.
yeah,
than
but
in
then
the show.
like those pirates,
They did that day
come
too.
in and buy baby hognoses and
Mhm.
the corn snakes and cork bark, and I know they get in the way of y'all's table, but they like help the whole show
Yeah.
have more
Well,
money in
hey,
it.
they might
They
buy your
do.
$70 random double het males that
Right.
Yeah,
that just
eventually.
get
Some of
wholesaled
those
or
people have
petted
probably
out.
never seen what we have either.
That's
So
true.
it introduces them into the hobby. They're
Mhm.
already into the reptiles because they watch her show. So
Yeah.
now they come in and they see this whole thing and they're like, oh my God, I
Mhm.
never even knew all this stuff existed. They only know what she makes or what she
Mhm.
shows them.
Right.
And then
Right.
you go inside and you show them all kinds of stuff and crazy combinations. That may spark a lot of kids to be like, hey, I like this. I'm more into this than something else.
Yeah.
That's
So-
the
I
next
know
generation.
They were,
Bringing people in, no matter how it is, if you look at it as a bad thing or a good thing, it's still bringing people into the hobby.
Yes.
Same thing with like Brian Barczyk. He brings tons of people into this hobby. They would never even thought about getting into it.
Mhm.
There's probably other names that you probably don't want to mention, but they do bring people in,
yeah, I just
Well,
thought
honestly-
last time was, even though it was irritating people, it was exciting looking. There was energy in the air.
Mhm.
This time
Yep.
I could run whole aisles and not
Oh,
see
yeah.
another customer.
Put your arms out to the sides.
Yeah,
and-
I
I
could
mean,
jump
we
from
saw
table
the
to table.
shenanigans Alex was getting into as we were wandering around as a
Yes.
gaggle.
Right.
So
You couldn't do that last.
No,
you couldn't
no.
do that last
No.
time. There was no room.
Mhm.
No, and I'll say
Right.
that. You're right, Steve. I was one of those
and I have to
people
tell
that
myself the
got
same thing
blocked
too.
from everything because of the
Mm.
lovely snake discovery last
Hey,
show.
I was waiting in that snake discovery line with my daughter because I wouldn't have done it, But my daughter wanted to do it. We waited 3.5 hours in that line.
Crazy.
Brutal.
The show was closed. There was still
I
a
bought
line.
I bought a sand boa that I had planned to buy. And then when I was standing in the line, Rufus Darden was in that whole row. I bought a second one because I was so bored standing there. I was like, you know what? I'll take that Paradox albino male right there. Why not? And I literally, that is how it happened. So
A
you
friend
can't
of
say
mine
that
at
it
that last
doesn't
one,
happen.
he had the line that went through his aisle. He did not sell a snake on Saturday. He was like, I can't believe this. Nobody can see my table, this, that, and the other thing. Now, I was across on the other side, nowhere near where Snake Discovery was. I didn't sell a snake on Saturday. Nothing. I talked to a bunch of people. Everything was really good. The crowd was there. It was cool. I sold nothing. So I can't blame it on Snake Discovery because I had, going back to it, I had a really good Friday and I had an amazing Sunday. So everybody waited till the last minute to buy everything, which was fine. And I walked out of there, you know, very, very happy for that show. But for everybody to say that we didn't sell anything because Snake Discovery was there, not true. I was nowhere near that whole, you know, line going through the entire show. I wasn't on the front. I wasn't in the middle going back into that dock over there where they were stationed in the back. It didn't affect me at all. And I still sold nothing.
I feel like the market was already sort of down, obviously last spring too. It
I
just
really
Snake
didn't feel
Discovery
it till the
covered it up in terms of like it looked like things were popping,
It
even though
looked
they were
popping,
kind of
yeah.
already settling down. Because I mean, the prices were already falling by last fall.
I've done pretty good most of this year. I mean, we've had some lulls and stuff, but you still sell snakes in between. And then you have a show here and there. I try to do at least a show a month. So when you have one show, you can, you know, make up for what you would have sold online if it's decent. Bring your lower end stuff. It doesn't matter. Bring whatever you can. Just you got to move that out. It's one less mouth to feed, one less animal to take care of. So
Yeah,
I mean, the
that's
more of
my
that stuff you can get rid of,
dream.
just to move, you know, get your stuff up there. You know,
Right.
I
All right,
mean,
let's
I
talk
don't
about-
want to. I hate bringing that kind of stuff sometimes to shows, but you know, if you see a snake on my table and it says $25 and it looks like a normal, chances are it's probably a triple head. So you know.
So pro tip, everybody, buy it and test it with RGI.
Yeah.
Use the panel.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yes, 100%. It's going to be a male, but it'll probably be a double or triple head.
All right, let's talk about
And
the
I do that
location
sometimes because a lot
change.
of people don't want that stuff. But
Is everybody excited about the location change? Scared? I talked to Anna. She's like, someone was stabbed there last week, and I'm
Yeah,
like,
apparently
I'm sorry,
someone
what?
was stabbed or shot or something.
is
there
it that
like
bad of a
week ago.
neighborhood?
It's not that bad. Here's my thing is that you could say what you want about Arlington, but there's a lot of restaurants, there's a lot of food, a lot of quick hits you can go to when you're at the show. It's built, the infrastructure there in Arlington is built for the stadium. So you have Cowboy Stadium right there. You have the ballpark, they used to call it the ballpark where the Rangers play.
Mhm.
You have all that stuff there. So the traffic flow and everything is built to handle high traffic. It was built for that purpose. Now, and where this is at in Dallas, cannot say that. And the hotel is across the highway.
We
So
booked
now
into
you're
the
going to
3
have
hotels.
now you're going to have to be moving across the highway, which even as somebody who's not vending, that's not as appealing to me.
It is
So
cheaper though.
it's
The
not.
Holiday Inn. The Holiday Inn
Yeah.
is very cheap. The other two,
105.
the Renaissance and the Hilton, I think the Holiday Inn is 105. My wife is like a stickler. She's got to book her rooms like 3 shows in advance. So she knows all about this stuff. But she looked into the Renaissance and the Hilton, and one was $200 a night and the other one was $300 a night.
Yeah, the Renaissance is right next to it, so it would have been nice if it was that one, but it's fine for me.
So she booked the Holiday Inn, but there's a good chance we could wind up at another one if the rates go down.
There's nowhere to eat around that that convention center. Either.
Really?
It's super close.
There's a
Yeah.
lot of like built
It's going to be different though,
I guess
because when you have a host hotel with the bar downstairs and everybody hangs out down there in the lobby and everything, now where's everybody going to hang out?
Well, I know someone who sold a snake at the bar.
Really?
right.
Sold a snake at the bar. Heard that story that they were like, I have the perfect snake for you. And showed it to him the next day and sold the snake.
We could go to Panera Bread.
Great.
Good. You're great.
Do they serve beer?
Good news.
What is inside of the like actual mall place? Because looks
Isn't it called a marketplace or something?
yeah, there's different like stores inside, and it says there's a Starbucks, but like it looks like there's like a lot of weird stuff. Like there's like a FedEx ship center. It's like more of like an industrial.
Is it like a
retail.
1980s mall that they turned into something else or something? Like we're going to be doing the show in a Sears or something?
Next year at
Well,
Halloween.
this part is like a big. We can street view
Right
it.
after
I was
Spirit
street viewing it
clears
last
everything
night
out?
to be obnoxious.
Exactly.
It's just a big building. I mean, they have car shows and stuff in it, so it's
Okay.
like it looks like it has been carpeted if you pay for it, but it might be just cement, which I don't like because it hurts my tootsies eventually. But they said it was free parking, and their website says $5, so I don't know who's lying here.
I mean, that's still cheaper than $10.
That $10 is what it is now.
Right. I guess my question is like, is this gonna make it even more of a pet show? Because it's
They're
like,
adding 60 more tables.
yeah,
Woo.
I got a
Audio
table,
of
thank
which was
God.
sold Saturday.
I don't know. We
Alright,
got to actually
speculate
pick our
wildly.
tables for this next one. So it's going to be, I got my buddy from Florida, George MD's coming. Dale Richards is coming again. And we got Chandler on one side and then Jason over there. So we took over an entire island of all of us. So it should be pretty cool just with us just hanging out. If it's not a great show. We've been to shows before where we didn't do well, but we had a good time. So
Maybe
I
we'll
mean,
have a lot of curiosity. Maybe we'll bring some people out just wanting to see, like, is it better? Is it bigger? There's more, like you said, there's 60 more tables. Like, are there going to be more? Maybe curiosity will bring people, have a little hype. Maybe, I don't know.
Might
there
be a
was no
little bit
hype
of
for
a
this last one.
facelift.
Right. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, maybe we could get, maybe there will be a little bit more hype that people are just. I don't know. I'm trying to be positive here.
There has always been hype for the show. Everybody always builds it up, and it's always really good. This time, there was nothing. I think it's hurting it that it's too close to Tinley.
I agree.
Are they going to move it? Because the April date is different than the
February.
Tinley's always going to be March.
Arlington.
I don't think
date?
they'll move that.
This one's after Tinley. Is that going to hurt it more? So it used to be
I don't know.
Think it will, honestly.
I don't think so.
You're gonna have a money exchange at Tinley.
It just, there's so many big shows a year. I think the bigger ones need to be spaced out a little bit more. Like the Arlington could have been done in May. So you had March, you know what I mean? Then you have, April off, and then May is another big show. And then they do like their St. Louis and their Schaumburgs. I don't do any of them, so I don't know what they're really like.
Spicy hot take. Should they get rid of St. Louis or Schaumburg?
I've never done them. I've not heard anything good either.
Well, Schaumburg is so close to Tinley. Like, it's right. Am I wrong about that?
They did the Schaumburg show because Tinley was closed. They couldn't get into that building. So they were using it for COVID testing or whatever. So that's why they were looking for another venue. Then they found that one, which is like 30 minutes away, but they didn't ever cancel it when Tinley did. I
just don't know that we need more shows.
Oh, definitely not.
It
Definitely
does not
not.
feel special. I mean, I'm in Texas. I can go to a reptile show
Every
almost
weekend.
any weekend
Yeah.
I want to, if I want to.
But there's no anticipation to go to a show anymore when they're every weekend. I mean, I'm in Florida. We're the same way.
Or
We're
there's no
flooded.
reason to save up. Like for us,
Right,
that
right.
are like paycheck breeders and whatever. It's like you save up. This time I didn't even really save up for Arlington. I really didn't, and I usually do.
It's all the same. I mean, when I first got into it and we used to go to shows and stuff, it was like, okay, we went to one in January. We don't have another one until May or June. You know what I mean? And this is like different parts of Florida. And there was only 2 or 3 a year. Now every one of those locations, they're doing it 4 times a year.
Andrew, I agree with you 100%.
Yeah. What was with the humidity in that
humid
building?
as shit.
It was moist in there. I'll use the word. It was moist.
The Arlington show? Well, it was freezing at some points, and then it got really hot.
I'll take freezing.
What?
I
My
wasn't over
snakes were
there when
cold,
it was
and-
freezing. I don't know about that.
Saturday was pretty cold. I remember taking my snakes out first thing in the morning, and they were cold, really cold. And I don't think they bring heat. You know what I mean? It's not the time of year. When I left Arlington on Sunday afternoon, it was 104 degrees outside. It's always over 100 when we leave Texas. I don't know why. Every time we get in the car and I look at the thing, and I'm like, oh
Always
my God.
over 100 in Texas, Steve.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm in Florida. We're not much better. You don't have our humidity either, though. You feel like you walk through a sauna every time you walk outside.
I think
We're
that's
starting
the
to cool down.
biggest thing I'm scared for with the new venue, because at least with Arlington, we know what to expect, right? Like as far as animal care. So like every new show or every new venue, you always have something pop up. Seems like the HVAC doesn't work or something happens, so you have to adjust on the fly, right? I know it's a big spot, so it shouldn't be an issue, but I'm worried about HVAC, making sure that the animals are going to be either regulated or figure out how to regulate them myself at that point. And I'm scared about security with it being in downtown Dallas. Arlington is kind of a spoiler because like you have so much security sit at that building all night. That's not funny, but like I know in Odessa, there's like one or two people that just kind of peruse the entire area throughout the night. And it's just kind of like when you go to these bigger shows, you're not bringing a couple $1,000s worth of animals. Like you're bringing tens of thousands of dollars that if something happens, it's life-changing. So it kind of worries me. But you got to risk it to reward.
Right.
So
for this next show, I'll probably bring some lower end stuff to the show. I won't concentrate on bringing all high end stuff. Because you just never know. I mean, I could be wrong and it could turn around and everybody could be looking for all that high end stuff, but it doesn't mean I can't have it behind the table.
Exactly.
Especially if all your stuff is listed. You know, I hate when people message me when like I leave on like Thursday to go to these bigger shows like Arlington, and I leave at like 12, 1 o'clock in the morning, and I get in about 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And then I get a message on Friday, hey, did you bring this snake to the show? Somebody I've been talking to all week. And I'm like, no. Did you ask me to bring it? Because sometimes I'm not thinking about bringing that snake. I'm concentrating on other stuff. And it's like, well, okay. I was like, I can ship it. And they're like, oh, never mind. I'm like, okay, you wanted it if it was here, but if you have to pay $50, you don't want it.
Right.
I don't know. Or they wanted to see it in person. That could be part of it
venue
too.
you think it should move to or something? Like, is there a better one? Any local yokels?
I have no idea.
Yeah,
Like,
I'm
if it's not
familiar.
in Dallas, do you want it like the Reptile Nation in Fort Worth stopped happening because they lost their contract with the venue. So like it could be in Fort Worth again.
Last
How was that
year,
I thought it was pretty mid, but fine. Like I spent too much money vending it to make $1,200. Like,
does it seem like some of the shows that the first time he does them, they are jam packed with like 20,000 people, and then the next time it's like 10, and then 5? Okay, I was just wondering if it was just me.
I love Mickey, but every Show Me Snake show feels that way sometimes. Like when they went to the new OKC, they're like, listen, I've been to shows. But like the new OKC one did $2,000 door, and then the very next time when I got lured back to going, it was like a 600 person door, and it's a little regional show, so it's fine. But I'm just like,
I was talking about the Reptilian Nation shows. They seem that the attendance seems to go down a little bit each time.
I don't know.
I have worked very hard on West Texas Show Me Snake shows. You better lay off.
I've only done 2 of the Reptilian Nation shows. I did an Atlanta show.
Well, I heard Atlanta was good, but I don't know.
San Antonio was good. We had our first one.
But
we had our first Reptilian Nation.
That is a very big. That is the biggest pet show you're going to go to. What I found when I vended them, it was a lot of $25 snakes. And that's where a lot of people got triple heads for me. So I was just looking to move a lot of males, and that was a perfect place to go. I'll be honest with you, the first Atlanta we did, Reptilian Nation show, we sold about 92 snakes at that show.
That's good.
So, yeah, it was great. It was definitely a good shot in the arm that I needed because I needed the room. So that worked out well, but I didn't do it again.
Right, it's a lot of work for that
It,
patient.
it's a lot of work. It's a lot of, I want to hold a snake.
Mhm.
And it's a pet show and it's education. I'll give it that 100%. But you're educating every person, not just a couple of people. You know what I mean? And everybody who walks up to your table, the first thing out of their mouth is, "Can I hold a snake? What snake can I hold?"
None.
So I had a friend of
Yeah,
mine that sat
none.
at the
The
end.
answer is none.
None. You may
Well, no,
hold
I
none.
had a friend at the end of the table that sat there with a snake out.
Yeah,
And
y'all
every time
don't
I said
do
it, I
that.
pointed right there. Go right there. And that was perfect. Just
No.
filtered them that way. But it is a lot of talking. I'm usually hoarse by like Sunday night. I was hoarse by 12 o'clock on Saturday from talking,
Yeah,
constantly talking.
I can do a lot of talking, but it takes too much out of me, and then I'm really mean for
Well,
like 2
it's
weeks.
hard when you keep repeating the same thing over and over again to every person that's
Mhm.
there.
Oh my
You
god,
know-
my favorite one is, are these boas retics? Like, nobody's seen a boa in the South apparently for like
They're like,
20
what
years.
kind of strange creature is this? Never seen one of these before. These aren't loose down in the Everglades.
Also, the other one is
Yeah.
like, are all of these corn snakes? Like, they can't imagine they come in different colors. All right, John, I need you to sing the praises of the San Antonio show because there seems to be shots fired in the chat. Tell us why everyone should drive to San Antonio to vend or attend.
There's lots
Go.
of good customers down in San Antonio. I will tell you that. Like, I have
That's
people
where
that
I'm
come
from.
up from San Antonio all the way up to the Arlington area or the Odessa shows. Like, that's a customer base that is looking for it. I think the show's promoters, and not to hate on them, the show's promoters are what is really affecting that area.
Mm-hmm.
But I know
There's a lot of good breeders down there.
Advertising wise, you're talking about?
people down there that travel 6 hours, 7 hours just to attend a show.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I do.
Is it
I
because
live
of
in San
For
Antonio. And,
advertising?
I wouldn't say that. So, like, what's the one that Jesse does? It's the Texas Reptile Expos,
yeah, and
and they do it.
because
Her and Rick.
that's a hot show. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think they do like 1 a quarter down there in
Mhm.
McQueenie
Yeah.
because they can't be directly in San Antonio
Right.
because of the hots.
Mhm.
They do an outstanding job. I have never had a bad show there. My issue is I ran out of animals to be able to vend that show, and I lost my spot. So I'm waiting
Ooh,
patiently to get back
Oh
in that show.
no.
take those tables anyway.
Yeah, but now a lot of people, especially in Texas, in Colorado, like everything surrounding Texas right now is very much so, oh, we only allow X amount of ball pythons in, which I
Yes.
can understand and I can
Mhm.
respect that. But if people aren't moving or if they're not like adding to your show, I don't see why you don't give other people a chance. And that's kind of where I'm frustrated at because I would really like to expand. I have people from all over the state that are willing to travel and come visit me.
Mhm.
Sometimes they spend money with me, but they always spend money.
I have a question. What,
Sure.
especially since you guys have more experience vending, right? Do you think any of these show promoters would consider doing something like a lottery style for tables? Like, you know, you put your name in with however many tables, this is how many tables we have to fill. And instead of going like down a list or you've kept a table, because then it might not be the same vendors at every single show and everyone has the same chance at, you know, you get your
You
name
have
People who
drawn.
have tables would
I know
hate
that
it,
that
and the
gets
people who
into some
don't have tables would
politicking.
love
People
it.
are going to get butthurt about it, but I think, you know, for providing variety to the people coming into the door, and you know, we need new people to have a chance, right? Like if you don't have a friend who's willing to share a table with you or give you half of their table so you can get started and get your feet wet and build your own community, like it's kind of like when you're in college trying to get a retail job and they go, sorry, we're not going to give you a job without having retail experience. Okay, but like, how do I get retail experience if no one's willing to like hire you to get that experience in the first place? So
If you go to like a Repticon show and you vend one of their shows, you get in. Let's just say from there, and then the next show, when you're at that show, you pay for the next show. If there's there's an excess of tables left over, they send it out. If you're on a waiting list or anything, if you've vended the show before, they'll send you an email with a password. But they don't give you the password until they tell you it's going to be a password, and the show is going to open up in 2 days. So you wait by your phone like we all used to, and as soon as that password come out, you copy and paste it and throw it in there and try and get tables. That's how it's been forever. But like John was saying, he didn't vend that one show. He lost his tables.
Yeah.
I've been vending Orlando, Tampa, and Lakeland religiously for like 10 years, all those shows. So, but for even the longest time, even though I was vending them, I still had to get that password. They didn't have that thing where you can pay for them the next time. So anybody could have got those tables. It's happened to many people that had the same tables 3-4 years. They go in late and with the password and they didn't get their tables. Then they started where, okay, you vended the last one. If you want these same tables or you want the same amount of tables, sometimes they can move you and you pay for them in advance and then you get them. But if you don't pay for them by Sunday, it doesn't matter if you want to pay for them on Monday. They're gone. They go into potluck. Everybody can book them now. And I've had friends just like John that didn't do that one time or didn't get it in, and they lost their tables for good, and now they're trying to get back in. Not that Repticon is the greatest place to vend or anything like that, but that's where I started. You know what I mean? I've done all those shows. I still enjoy doing all those shows. I still have friends, you know, that are vending now, or they were customers back in the day. You know, I've seen all these people climb, you know, go through everything to get to where they are now, and it's nice to see that. But they're still, you know, I have a lot of friends that are, you know, oh, you got any extra tables for this show and this and that? And I was like, I don't really have any extra tables. I book 4 tables for every Repticon that I do. And I tend not to vend with other people unless I just want to, like Texas, I gave one to Dale, just because I didn't want to vend 3 in a row. It's too many tables. If it was on a corner, it'd be a different story. But to get tables at some of these places just to have a lottery for every show, I don't think that's fair. I mean, if I didn't
I
get
just
tables
thought
at
it'd
a
be an
show,
interesting thing to spitball around with a group, you know, between buyers, new people to the hobby, some more experienced people.
right. But I would be butthurt if I've been vending a show for 10 years and they told me I didn't have tables for it.
Yeah, no, I totally get that too.
That's what I was saying. Like, that's a great idea, but
I mean,
people who have tables would hate it.
Yeah.
And the people who don't
if you
have
vended
tables would
once or
love it.
twice before in the last 3 years, and I've been there religiously for 10, and I didn't get tables and somebody else did that was brand new, I'd be like, you know, and they show up with a plastic tablecloth and 6 deli cups, I'm going to be upset.
Yes.
Or even,
are like,
I guess in between would be like, okay, we have like 6 tables up for lottery every show, so that you know, the little guys who, you know, say these are all
that's like the
one table
password. It's
slots.
kind of a lottery.
Yeah.
Whoever gets that password first and gets in there and picks their tables. It's all electronic. I mean, back in the day, though, it was funny when we used to do shows, and it was basically the Tampa and Orlando Repticon. There was one woman that would walk around with a list of all the shows, and she would say, "Which shows do you want to vend?" I'll say, "Well, I'm going to do the Tampa. I'm going to do the Orlando. I'm going to do a Jacksonville. I'm going to do this. How many tables do you want for each?" And she would write the number of tables, and you were done. That was it. You'd pay for your tables at the end of Saturday. You'd pay for your tables at the show. But times have changed.
At the end of the day, like you got to think of it from a different spot. Like we as vendors, we're looking at it as, okay, we want that table, right?
Yeah.
But when we're at that table, we're looking for our repeat customers. Like I could tell you pretty much everyone that stopped at my table the last 2 years, except for Jessica.
Well, I'm just obnoxious, so sorry. Go ahead.
I love you. But like my repeat customers are people that come and see me regularly. I can tell you every time when they talk to me, are they going to receive a little bit better of a deal? Yes, they are, because they're always there, right? It's the same thing from the promoter standpoint. Now you have these people that come and their deals, like I know with Herp Show, you have to vend X amount of shows throughout the year to receive a discount on your tables. And for some of these people that do 20, 30 of their shows throughout the year, they need that discount in order to run that circuit and really move their inventory, right? Because they might have 3 or 4 dead shows, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And it's not on Sean and Lori. It's just they didn't have the presence at that show, or it's their first time in that area. And a lot of these smaller shows, it's not a, okay, well, we've seen your face on the internet type thing. It's a, okay, I've seen you here at my show 2 or 3 times. Now I'm comfortable buying from you.
Right.
Like a locals only show until you make your name for it in that
Yeah.
area.
Yep.
Well, I guess it's like I see both sides, because also when I go to a show and I'm like, I see the same 15, 20 people who I have no interest in their stuff, right? And I'm just like, why do I want to pay to go and see? And I'm not saying like for these big national shows, but especially the more regional size shows, right? Versus, if
I think
I
that-
go and I say,
I don't mean
yeah,
to
there
cut you
might
off,
be
but
a
it's actually a
core-
huge
No, no, you're
problem.
fine.
At-
But it's like, why
at
would
Herp
I want to go
specifically.
to? Why would I
Because
want
it's
to
the
go to the
same
show and spend
animals
money?
moving around the
Yeah.
circuit, and they're just getting bigger, and you're like,
So, like, is
wholesale
that-
them and breed something else for a while.
Is that part
or
of the
whatever.
reason why there
Don't
might
buy
not
that
be
snake
money
now.
floating around? Like money's not floating around because, we're all in the same community. If we're all driving, up to 2 to 3 hours and we see the same people with the same animals, and money's not going to be spent. Versus, oh, there's variety. Oh, there's new people. Did you see there was a different vendor here this time? So like,
I get that.
I understand both sides, right? But like, we can't complain about the market when we're also not offering customers different things or doing anything different to draw in new people. So it's like being in that weird position of like having been on both sides, and I'm kind of straddling that line right now between, my previous like nearly decade of doing the damn thing and now getting back into it and being more on the buyer side at this moment. Like, I see both sides, and it's just an interesting talking point with people of different experience levels. So
I
What
completely,
were you
can't-
saying, Steve?
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I completely agree with it, but the promoter
Yeah.
has a double-edged sword on that, right?
Mhm.
Because the promoter doesn't have just one specific customer like we do. Promoter
Mhm.
has to keep the vendor happy and the
Yeah.
people walking in the door happy. So
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but the vendors are happy when
different
they make
outlook.
sales,
Yeah.
and that it's worth their time. So it's like this never-ending cycle of like, well, what's the right thing to do? Shake things up and keep it interesting for vendors and buyers. Basically, it goes down to everyone needs to do the hold back rack auction. spend 2 or 3 hours, stay in your home, sell some
Very
critters.
appealing to just sit in my
Yes.
pajamas and
Yeah.
buy snakes with the cocktail
Yeah.
in hand, and
Mhm.
You'd be surprised how many
It
people
goes back
message me.
to. Sorry, go ahead. I'm sorry, Jess.
I was just real quick, just like how many people message me like, I'd rather do this instead of slump these animals to 3 shows in a row.
Uh-huh.
I might get less money than the final, but I've
But the
saved
time,
money.
yeah.
Right.
The
So like
time,
people
the
that are
gas,
relatively big.
the stress
like,
on the
okay.
animals, the quarantining, the mites.
Right. I don't think it excludes shows, but like there's a
Right.
there's like we have a pain point right now where we all have too many low end snakes into a market that can only accept so many. It is absolutely buying some, but I don't know. John, what were you
They
saying?
have to go somewhere.
Yeah.
It goes back to the old days, though. Like, what got all of us into it was having people out in our community willing to reach out, right?
Mhm.
Someone putting a snake in our hands for the first time, someone doing something for outreach versus just, I know, Jess, let it out. I know it's coming.
You see just like physically holding
But I'm
her
saying,
out.
like, our
I know she is
podcast-
holding it
our
in.
podcast, YouTube, all of that's great, but you're looking at a broad spectrum there, and you're going for worldwide coverage with that, or at least attempting worldwide coverage with that, right? You're not looking at local communities. We're not focusing on Texas when we're doing this, even though the majority of us are in Texas in this panel right now.
Mhm.
What are we doing locally to grow versus like maybe a state or 2 away? What are they doing locally? There's a reason why 4 hours away from me, 5 hours away from me, whatever, in Tucson in Arizona, they have a 30+ year show that gets new people every single year.
Mhm.
It's because they do the work in that area.
Mhm.
A lot of us have become too comfortable not having to go out. Like most of us are introverts, and I understand that. I hate being around people. It takes me a week to recover from the show. It takes me a week to recover from a freaking podcast sometimes. But it's like if we're not out there, like I talk to the people at my kid's school and I get some of the dirtiest looks and I get some people that get intrigued. But
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
talking snakes every single day now, and
Mm-hmm.
It does
if
make me
we're not
wonder
doing that,
though.
it's not going to grow.
It makes me wonder though, John, because I'm a corporate trainer. It's my day job. Wow. Um, I work with fresh
I put
college,
snakes
fresh out of
together and hope for
college
eggs.
graduates, right? So these Gen Z, younger, and I say that now, it hurts my heart to say that I'm not the younger generation anymore. But I work with them, and it makes me wonder, like, how they're engaging the market and how they are becoming involved. Because I think we had a snake in our hand. I went to the pet store in the mall and saw my first red tail boa and saw my first ball python, in a 10-gallon aquarium. That's how I became it. But how are they engaging the market? Because this is the future. This is they're the customers now and the customers in the future. I think about my own kids. They're engaging. They are finding out through YouTube. They are finding out through TikTok and Instagram. And so it makes me wonder if that is the way that we will be. I think there's a place for it. I personally love going to reptile shows. I get to talk to other people who actually care about the stuff that I want to talk about. Whereas at work, my coworkers roll their eyes and like, oh my God, not the damn snakes again. And it's always the snakes. So I get to talk to people that actually want to talk about the snakes. It's fantastic. That's the part I get out of it, is the people, the networking. And sure, I meet people at shows and then I go check out their Morph Market page. And maybe I'm sending messages and I do check to see if they have an Instagram, and I follow them and I see what they're posting. So even I really engage it that way. And I pretty much hardly won't buy from someone unless they have an Instagram page and I can see the pictures. Like, I want to see, like, what projects are you in? How do your animals look? How does your setups look? Those are the things I want to know. And this younger generation, I don't know that they do, our turn. I could be wrong, but I know how the ones that I interact with, they interact with the world differently. And I'm just curious to see how that's going to affect moving forward, like how we do business and how we sell. And you can already see that the social media is a big part. Like, we know who we order the snake ahead of time, and I just go pick it up, from that person. So I don't really know where I was going with it, but it just made me think, like, we have to have a snake in a hand. And I'm like, I think there's a place for that. I just don't know what it is, and I don't know how much that's going to be important. It just makes me curious about it.
Well, I think, like four of us started going at the same time. I was going to say, it's kind of like, anything else. So like, I'm in real estate, and there's when I first got my license and was dabbling and dipping my toes in the real estate waters, I did not realize how much of my time was going to just be spent networking and talking to people and getting to know other agents and vendors and going to schmoozy type events where it's all about those connections. And like, I started a book club in my community, in my neighborhood last year, right after I had back surgery, because I was like, you know what, I get to know people in my neighborhood. Work stuff happens to come up, and there are other real estate people in the group, but like, they all know now that I'm the snake lady too. And like, when people have giant Texas rat snakes on their doors, they're like, oh my God, where's Marissa? Like, please come save us. Or, they say, hey, my kid is thinking about getting a pet, and we might be considering getting a gecko or a snake. Like, can you come over and bring maybe a ball python and a corn snake and a leopard gecko and like help educate my kid? And like, the shirts I got, I was running way behind. I wanted to be able to wear a shirt with my logo at Arlington, visibility and all that. And I found someone in a local networking group that's like a women-owned business networking group. So there's shirt makers and real estate agents and carpet clean, everything you can imagine. And I just posted saying, hey, I need some shirts on quick turnaround. Who can help me? And this woman, she hosts a monthly coffee get together that's part of this networking group. And she let me know, she was like, hey, after I made your shirts, like, I went on your Instagram and like, oh my God, I didn't know they were so beautiful. And they like, I'm so curious. And I was like, well, hey, next coffee get together, like, I can throw a few snakes in my backpack and
Micro
you know,
show.
micro show, right? Like whether or not people choose to, like we can go to the side and have a little show and tell with grown adults who have children or might know people, but you know, it's making that little bit of a difference with someone in your circle that you know. But guess what? The next time someone's like, "Hey, I think so and so wants to get a pet snake for their kid," or they have this really cool space they want to put a display cage with something, right? I'm like, guess what? You can buy like $100 corn snake and put it in a super cool display enclosure, and bada bing, bada boom, you have a fun, cool, interactive pet, and they get bitten by the bug. How many people do you know actually stop at one snake?
Nobody.
Nobody
Not
stops
one.
at just one.
Nobody.
By the time you go, okay, by the time you order online rodents, it just makes sense.
Yeah, if you're
have
feeding
more
one, you
mouths
might
to
as well
feed.
feed 20.
Yeah.
Fine.
Or
But it's a
1,000.
very slippery slope.
Yeah.
You meet people, and then they go, "Oh, look, I can get this little male triple het that you're selling for $75. But wait, I can make what? Show me that $5,000 snake. You're telling me that I can raise up some females and like have this cool little breeding group, and I can make my own." Like that's where we all started, right? Like we had someone put a snake in our hands in elementary school and show us how cool and interactive these animals are, and we understand the genetics and their behaviors. And I think finding a way to ignite that passion again, whether it's in adults or kids on social media, in person, you know, yes, we have our little circle, but there's only so many of us, right? There's only so many of us. And there's so many people who enjoy pet reptiles. And at the end of the day, like, whether it's a $5,000 animal or a $50 animal, they can be a pet just as much as a breeder, depending on how much someone wants to spend.
All right,
So-
Shane's here, so we gotta go.
Oh no, we gotta go. Bye, Shane.
William's here also. What's up, William?
That
Okay.
was put so much more eloquently than I did. That's why I don't get sales. I
She
can't.
was spitting. So let's do like final thoughts. Like, will you vend or attend NARBC Dallas in the spring? And are you looking forward to it or whatever? Just like, and we'll go around because we're about done with our time. You all have. Steve has 1,000 snakes clean, so I mean,
I've got a lot. I'll be vending it. I already put in for my tables. I got my tables for the next show. I'm going to go in with a little bit different perspective on it this time, though, than I did last time. It's also going to see how Tinley is, too, because I have Tinley coming up next weekend, and I'll see how Tinley is in March prior to going to that one. That'll probably determine on what I'm going to bring. I may be bringing a lot of pet stuff. You know what I mean? I mean, not all pet stuff, but lower end stuff that will probably move at that show, opposed to, you know, $10,000 and $15,000 snakes. But I'm going to look forward to it. I always look forward to going to Texas because I like the people out there. There's a lot of people I don't get to see all year round that only do the Texas show. So I have a good time out there. My son was actually stationed in Fort Hood. So when we go to Texas, we go and see him. He's in the Army. But the next time we go, he'll be stationed in Alaska. So this is the last kind of time we're going to see him.
I don't know how many reptile shows there are in Alaska.
Yeah.
There are none. He's in like Fairbanks. No, there won't be any reptiles out there.
My dream was always just not to get Elmo as like a duty station. I was like, I will do anything not to have to fight a bear for my trash.
He's looking forward to it. More power to him.
All right, John, will you vend or attend?
I
The
will
Dallas one.
vend. I am never going to give that spot up.
Okay.
It took me way too
You
long
learned your
to
lesson.
get it. Whether I make money or not, it's going to be a different thing, but I don't think I'll give up one way or another. So,
Would you consider vending? Because you can't like necessarily change the animal composition you bring, like vending items or more merch or stupid plastic crap, or like, would you change some of the composition of what you're selling if the show becomes more mid, or just like we'll take it on the chin each time?
I think I'm just going to take it on the chin. Like I plan on putting out much more diversity as far as species within the next couple of years anyways. So I'm not too worried about that. I think I'll have something for most people one way or
Everyone. Just have something for everyone.
Yeah.
Apparently
little
Jeremy's
bit of-
vending. Jennifer, vend or attend?
I won't have anything to sell. So I will, which I don't know at this point in time. I'm looking around. I'm like, I'm kind of glad I don't have anything to sell right now. I'm just pumping mice and rats into stuff. So I will be at attending Dallas now, since we'll have to start calling it Dallas.
So hard.
NARBC. I know it
Mhm.
sucks. But I will be there. I'm excited to.
Are you going to get a hotel and do both nights again and make it a weekend?
Well, that's what I was just about to say. Thank
Okay,
you. It's a
sorry.
wonderful segue. We need Introvert House 2024 Dallas, where we all get a hotel room and read quietly in separate rooms.
That's right.
I think that everybody wants a party house. I don't want the party house. I want the let's all like be people adjacent, like be around people that we like without being too close,
No touching.
with no touching, and just have our own books and iPads and hang out in our own rooms quietly and have a nice meal.
Sounds
So
very relaxing.
I'm still down for Introvert House. We need to make that happen.
Hopefully we all don't get shanked in the parking lot, though. That's my dream.
That's true.
I won't get shanked in in the parking lot. I'm
Okay.
not worried about
Are you
that.
concealed carrying?
I'm
Open carrying?
blue
I don't
belt
know
in
what happens in
jiu-jitsu.
Texas.
I'm good to go.
It's constitutional here.
I can hang.
You don't have to question.
All right, Marissa, will you be vending? The thing is I'm worried it's going to become not a destination show, and so you'll lose the high-end people because we'll be like catering to the pet people, and then people won't come and fly in for the weekend just to have fun and network, and it will default back to like basically Reptile Nation or something, like a big pet show. And I'm like, that's not that fun because we can't all go to Tinley and compete over one high-end show only. You need a Pomona, a Tinley, and something in the South, and Daytona. So that's like a good spread. But
no, I'll be attending probably a one day because I do not really have many people I trust to watch my dogs. I have a few that are they need a special hand. They need a certain type of person. And boarding 6 dogs even for 2 nights is expensive. So they can have a long day at home while I hoof it back and forth. Because I'm just north of Austin, so it's not exactly a hop, skip, and a jump, but it's a long day, but it keeps the cost down. I can still see everything I need to see. But it'll be interesting because when I lived in Florida, I would fly out to Arlington for the show, spend a good chunk of money, and Ship Your Reptiles had their little table, and they would ship all my critters back to me. And again, when I lived in Florida, I'd go to Daytona all the time, spend big money there. But I feel like since getting back into the hobby last year, the vibe at these bigger shows seems way different than 8, 10, 12 years ago. But I can't always compare my current experience to my previous experience, but it's hard when that's where the bar was set, and now things are so different. So
all right, it sounds like it's going to be good. Everyone should come down, including Snake Discovery. You're invited back. Come on, girlfriend, let's go. I don't give a shit, just come. And hopefully like the influencers come back because I don't know, I'm not an influencer, I just suck ass. But if you get like hype to it, there will be hype. It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you pretend like it's going to suck ass and you're going to sell bananas for $10, it will suck ass. So like see everybody in April. Okay, what the heck, no shaking allowed. That's my final word. Thank you everybody for coming on. I know you tolerated a lot of weird stuff that I just said right now at the end, but we're doing it. Bye everybody at home.
It is.
Bye.